affordable way to get a ton of light for your Ram's bed, no matter what year or model that you have. This Raxium Axial Series LED truck bed lighting kit is the way to go. Now, this fully inclusive kit is a great choice for the truck owner who's not only looking for some light, but a lot of it, helping with accessing your cargo in the bed at night and being a great solution for lighting underneath really any tonneau cover. Now, while it is affordable, it is well put together with a fully inclusive kit that is pre-configured, so you really don't have to question when it comes time to install, making this a hassle-free solution. This kit features 8 strips of LEDs for all angles of the bed, but the most common position for them or placement for them is 3 on either side and 2 on the back, which is going to give your truck bed full illumination. Now, with these 6 white high-intensity LEDs per strips, this makes substantial light output for seeing the bed at night, whether you are in the woods and need to get your camping equipment, or you simply just have to get your sports gear out of the bed at nighttime. This system also uses a standalone switch that you can mount really wherever you'd like, so you can have full control of the light here and customize this kit to your personal preference, your lifestyle, and your build. Now, as you can see, these strips of LEDs come in 2 separate strands and they are pre-configured together. Now, the LED strips themselves, these are tough, made of a plastic housing here. They have a clear lens on the front, and all of these are IP68 water and dust proof rated. So even if you are super tough on your truck, these are going to hold up to that abuse, and they will hold up as well if they are exposed to the elements. If you don't have a tonneau cover on your bed, these are tough enough to handle the weather. Now, the LEDs are also incredibly efficient, even with that high intensity output, thanks to the low energy draw, so you don't have to maintenance these like other bulbs. You can enjoy the benefits of this LED lighting for a long time. Now, on the back, in order to secure them, you do have auto-grade 3M tape or the option to use the included screws in the kit, or both, in order to mount them up to your bed. Now, speaking of the install, as I mentioned, this is all pre-configured, but you will have to do a little bit of wiring. You do get a long lead of wires here, but they are open leads that you have to wire into power and that standalone switch, but we will show you how to do that in just a minute. Now, this kit is right around the $55 mark and is one of the most affordable choices in the category for bed lights. Now, the biggest thing that stands out about this kit, besides the price, is the fact that you're getting 8 light pods with 6 LEDs per pod in a durable construction with all the lighting already strung together for you. Now, while this set allows you a little leeway on how you want to customize and wire it up to your setup, most of the work is done for you, taking most of the questions out of the install, and you get a lot of beneficial light in the meantime for a very good price, making this a great pick. Now, install is a 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter and is very simple. So at most, it should probably take you about an hour or so to get this installed. There is a little bit of wiring that I mentioned, but you don't have to be intimidated by it. It is very simple. And at this point, I'm going to hand you over to one of our installers to show you how to mount and wire these up. So that is going to wrap it up for what I have to say. Let's jump into the install.
Tools required for this install include a ratchet, wire strippers and crimpers, needle nose pliers, scissors or diagonal cutters, plastic pry tool, a test light, T25 torque socket, some T-taps, a couple male spade connectors, a couple female spade connectors, zip tie clips, and zip ties. What's up, guys? Today we're installing bed lights in our Ram, so let's get started. Now, before we get started mounting up our bed lights, it is important to note that this is a universal kit. This isn't going to be specifically built for a Ram. So with that in mind, we're going to have to adapt this to the truck. Now, we've got 4 lights here. This is really probably made for a long bed. So what I'm going to do is wrap this around to the bulkhead. So we'll have a light on the front of the bed as well as coming in from the sides, which will give it better lighting overall. So I'm going to start sticking these down. I'm going to tuck my wires up underneath this lip with zip ties and a zip tie clip, and that way we can keep it nice and organized. So now I'm going to start on the end that has the long string of wire over here. I'm going to pull the double-sided tape, and then we have a nice angled portion of our bed here so that it'll point diagonally kind of down and into the middle. So I'm gonna stick that down right where that starts. And then I'm gonna skip the second one for right now. I'm gonna go to the third one and I'm gonna mount that right above the holes here. This is a more flat area. And then we'll just put the second one right in the middle here and just evenly space it out. We'll stick that down and then we're just gonna mount this right in the center here. This one's getting mounted on that downward angle as well. And then we can come around to the back and I'm gonna put this right here on this angled portion as well. Now right in the corner back here, we have a hole that we can tuck some of our wire into. So I'm just gonna start there. Just gonna feed this wire up and into that hole. And then I'll get my zip ties and my clips for these two middle sections. So now I've got my zip tie clips and my zip tie. The way this works is it's got double-sided tape on the back so we can stick it up here where you won't see it. And then you run your zip tie through there. You close this around the wire, trim your excess, and then you can just stick it up there. So we're gonna have 2 points here that we can stick it down. So I'm gonna put one right over here. And then take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters and just cut off the excess of that zip tie. And then you can peel that double-sided tape backing. Mount that up out of the way. And we'll do the same thing for the other side of this, and then we're just gonna repeat that same process for this one on the other one, and then for the two on the other side. And now we've got that nice and clean, so you're seeing minimal wire here, and then I'm just gonna do the same thing on the back. So now we need to remove our taillights on both sides of the truck. I've got a T25 Torx socket to remove these two screws, and then we can just pull it straight out. Pull straight back, pop it out of those grommets, release that red locking tab, and then press in on the black tab. Slide your connector off, and do that same thing on the other side. So now we need to run our wires into our taillight bucket. Now I've got a nice hole in the bed right back here that I can run it through. I'll show you exactly where that hole is in a second. And we're just gonna pull this all the way until this connector stops us. And then we're gonna come back here and tuck that in. So now right here is the hole that I fed the wire through. Right above it, we have this slot so that we can tuck all of our extra wire right into there. Just like that, and that'll clean it up. Do that same thing on the other side. So now I'm going to take my wires from the driver's side and run them over to the passenger side to meet up to the lights over there. So I'm going to reach down into the taillight bucket here, and we can get right behind this plastic to run it up here. We'll tuck it behind the plastic and run it all the way to the other side. And I'll grab my wire, just pull all that slack out. And now I'm just gonna tuck it in that panel. I've got a plastic pry tool here to pry back on it. Just get my wire in there. And we'll just do this all the way across to the other side. Once we get to the other side, I'm gonna go down through this plastic piece and into the taillight bucket the same way that I did on the other side. So now that we have both wires into our passenger side taillight bucket, I'm gonna be cutting off a lot of this excess. I'm gonna leave myself with a good amount here. I'm gonna be putting my switch right over here. If you're gonna run your switch somewhere else, you might wanna leave this wire until you have your switch hooked up. So I'm leaving about a good 1.5 foot of wire here to work with. And I'm just gonna take a pair of diagonal cutters and cut that off. So now the way I'm gonna wire these up is by splicing into the daytime running light wire of our taillight connector. So I've got a test light here. I'm gonna hook up this side to bare metal for my ground. I've got the daytime running lights on inside the truck, and I'm just gonna probe in this connector until my test light lights up, and then that's how we'll know that that's the daytime running light wire. So we're starting off with 2 grounds here, so we can skip those. And we have it lighting up at this last pin, which is this white wire with orange stripe. And we'll just probe all the rest of the connector. Just double check. So that's the only one that's lighting up for, so I'm going to be putting a T-tap on this wire. So now the way this T-tap works is there's a metal fork in here. You're going to get that fork around the wire just like that. And then you can close up this connector and take a pair of pliers, close that connector up and cut into that wire. And then we're going to use a male spade connector, and that'll connect into that. Now we're also going to put a connector on one of our ground wires. Now both of these black wires are ground, so you can use either one. Once again, just get that fork around the wire. And then grab your pliers. That's nice and closed up. So then that'll bring us to our switch. We've got 2 silver posts and a gold. We're not going to be using the gold, just the 2 silver. We're going to have a wire like this that I already have pre-made. It's just a wire with a male spade connector on one side and a female spade connector on the other. Female spade connector is going to go onto our switch. The male is going to go into the wire for the daytime running light. And then we're going to have to crimp a female spade connector onto our 2 powers and put that onto our switch. And then we can ground into our black wire. So now we need to separate our wires. We have a black with a white stripe. That's going to be our positive, and then the solid black is our negative. So you can just pull these apart, just like that. Do the same thing on this one. And then we're going to be leaving our 2 black wires and grabbing our black wires with the white stripes. And then these are going to run to your switch. Now I'm going to use a open hole in the bed to mount my switch. So I'm just going to feed these wires up through that hole, and I can pull them out into the bed. So now with our 2 positive wires, I'm going to take a pair of wire strippers to strip back some lead. And then we're going to twist up the lead that we have on each wire, and then we can twist them together. Nice and lined up. Twist that wire together and then take a female spade connector. Slide that over your wires. And then get wire crimpers and crimp down on that. Then just give it a tug, make sure it's not going to fall off. And then we'll go back down into our taillight bucket. So now back down in our taillight bucket, we're going to grab our 2 ground wires and do that same thing, except we're using a male spade connector on our grounds. Strip back that lead, twist it up, and then line them up, twist them together. Slide your male spade connector on. And then grab your wire crimpers and crimp that down. then once again, just give it a little tug, make sure it's not going anywhere. Now at this point, with our ground wires, we can go ahead and plug that in, and we'll come back and clean up all of this messy wiring at the end. Now I'm going to take my wire that I had pre-made. Once again, all you need is a little bit of wire and then a male and female spade connector. I'm going to plug the male end into our daytime running light connector. And I'm going to run the female end up through that hole that my positive wires for the lights went through. And then we can go ahead and connect up our switch. So now we can hook up our wires and push our switch into place. Now this wire that's running from the T-tap going into our daytime running light wire is going to go into the middle prong. And then you're just left with the top silver and the bottom gold. Once again, we are not using the gold. So we'll take the 2 power wires from each side of our lights and we're going to plug that into the top silver prong. So now before we finalize this, I turned on the daytime running lights on the switch inside the cab. So now if we hit this switch, our lights should turn on. And they do, so now we can press this into place. Now I've got this oval hole that I ran my wires through. You can mount this sideways so that the 2 clips engage. And just push that into place. And that's nice and out of the way and very accessible for you to turn that on and off. So now all we have left to do is clean up all this wiring. I'm just going to zip tie it up in one neat bundle and then we can throw our taillight back in. Now you want to make sure you leave enough slack to plug your connector into your taillight. I'm going to bunch it up like that, run the zip tie through it. And I'll just take a pair of scissors or diagonal cutters, cut off that excess, and then we can reinstall our taillight. And now we'll just reinstall our taillight. Just plug in your connector until it clicks, and then press that red locking tab down. And then just get in here and tuck your wires out of the way. And then we'll thread in our 2 Torx screws. And then take a T25 Torx socket, tighten those down, and then repeat the same process for the other taillight.
So that's going to wrap it up for my review and the install the Raxium Axial Series LED truck bed lighting kit fitting all year and model Rams. And you can find this right here at AmericanTrucks.com.